What about now? Thank you, Carl. Nice to see you around. So, is the sound all right now?
I'm not going to start until we get the sound right because there's no point otherwise. I wish you hadn't unplugged this yesterday. Yesterday it was the same thing. That's why I was asking you if you unplugged it. This.
Yeah, I unplugged it because the webcam was working.
So it's all right now, yeah?
Okay.
Yes, okay, great.
Christina, hi there. Can you hear us?
Okay,
Great,
that's
thank you.
great. Carl, my husband's name is Angelo, by the way, in case you haven't heard before. Just saying. Yes. Okay, I'm going to start now from the beginning again because it was a sound issue. So, chapter 16, the hypothesis of death is considered. The arrival of the specialists. After Kruger's unsuccessful visit, our English colleagues want the work of their specialist dog team from the South Yorkshire Police Department of Criminal Investigation. Their dogs are specially trained to locate the most minute traces of blood and are capable of outstanding performance in the search for human remains and bodily fluids. The forensic specialists. Each July, the hypothesis of death, including by the parents, is being seriously considered. However, no lead has yet come to anything, and we find ourselves in a cul-de-sac. We have to recenter the investigation around its point of departure, apartment 5A at the Ocean Club in Villa da Luz. We officially request the help of the best experts in criminology and forensics, but also the specialist dog team from the English police. A few days later, we welcome Mark Harrison, a specialist in murder and the search for missing persons and victims of natural disasters. National advisor to the British police, he is well known for his exceptional professional experience. He has already participated in dozens of international criminal investigations. His work consists of defining new strategies for research. He gets to work immediately, supported by the Portuguese and the investigators from Leicester and Scotland Yard. On his arrival, we place at his disposal details of the case, as well as all our material and human resources. Harrison reads up on the statements and interviews from the principal witnesses, including, of course, those of the parents and friends. All the analysis, simulations, hypotheses, and cross-checking already carried out. He carries out a reconnaissance on the ground by helicopter and then on foot. He paces the streets and the access roads to Via da Luz and compares them to the diagrams created in the course of the investigation. Nothing is left to chance. Measurement and timing of possible routes between buildings, apartments, and restaurants. Analysis with the help of the best specialists of weather, geological, and maritime factors in relation to the investigation. Consultation with the best forensic anthropologist in the country who indicates for us what would be the actual state of the body in the hypothesis of death occurring on May the 3rd. Study of the region's natural carrion predators. All the research already conducted by hundreds of people, GNR, civil defense, firemen, and other volunteers, is re-examined in detail and reanalyzed. After a week of intense work, Harrison presents the results of his study to my coordinating group. Even if we were expecting it, his conclusions confirm our worst fears. The most plausible scenario is the following. There is no doubt that Madeleine is dead, and her body is hidden somewhere in the area around Praia da Luz. He praises the quality of the work carried out by the Portuguese authorities in trying to find the little girl alive. According to him, the time has come to redirect the searches in order to find, this time, a body hidden in the surrounding area. Amazing statistics. Great Britain has at its disposal the world's biggest data bank on homicide of children under 5 years old. Since 1960, the count is 1,528. Harrison is well acquainted with its contents. He often draws information from there which helps him to resolve similar cases. Valuable information can be found there on various criminal modus operandi, places where bodies are hidden, techniques used to get rid of a body. He relates that on one occasion, thanks to the data, he was able to deduce the maximum distance a body might be found in relation to where the crime had been committed. The figures quoted in the report he hands over gives us the shivers. The crimes, including those of a sexual nature, are committed by the parents in 84% of the cases. 96% are perpetrated by friends and relatives. In only 4% of them is the murderer or abductor a total stranger to the victim. In this roundabout way, Mark Harrison points out that the guilty party may be a person close to Madeleine and even her own parents. From now on, we have to explore this track, especially as the others have proved fruitless. Harrison also suggests that we use the skills of two totally remarkable dogs. The first, an EVRD-enhanced victim recovery dog, achieves outstanding performance in the detection of human cadaver odor. The second, a CSI dog, crime scene investigation, is capable of smelling the tiniest trace of blood, knowing how to recognize its human origin. To convince us of their capability and the extraordinary work carried out by these very special detectives, in the course of over 200 investigations, he screens a video for us showing their training and their intervention on the ground. He suggests that we start the operations with the inspection of apartment 5A, then those occupied by the McCann's friends. Robert Murat's house will also be subjected to a thorough examination. In addition, all the vehicles used by all of them will be sniffed by the dogs. Meanwhile, we were supposed to receive American electronic equipment that detects human bodies thanks to the odor that emanates from them, sent Transfer Unit 100, but the equipment blocked by customs arrived late. We didn't need to use it, having obtained very concrete results thanks to the dogs. The English, oh my God, I can't read today. The English Sorry, guys.
You want me to read?
No, it's fine.
No.
The English specialist dog team, for God's sake, it was so easy. The heat is scorching on this 30th day of July 2007 when two Springer Spaniels, Eddie and Keela, get off the British Airways plane, accompanied by their trainer, Martin Grime. An air-conditioned vehicle is waiting to take them to their accommodation. A vet who will be on hand. Oh my God.
Will be on hand.
A vet who will be on hand during their stay has been brought in to intervene in case of illness or if the dogs get bitten by a snake. Their mission to find Madeleine's body and expose those responsible. Eddie has been involved in a great number of cases, helping the police to resolve a good many riddles thanks to his sense of smell. Even if the body has been moved, objects the body has touched have been contaminated by its odor, especially porous materials, fabrics, the upholstery in cars, etc. And that odor Eddie knows how to recognize out of 1,000. Keela, a scenes of crime specialist, is capable of locating particles of blood even after a place has been cleaned with chemical products or bleach. Sometimes the residues are so microscopic they are missed by the instruments of the forensic police, as sophisticated as they are, and it's impossible to harvest them without taking all of what they are on. Eddie is always the first to be brought onto a site. Once he has discerned the odor that he knows so well, it's Keela's turn to go into action, on the lookout for the slightest whiff of blood. The simultaneous presence of the two elements in a given place, blood and cadaver odors, is taken to indicate that a body has been there and that is probably there that the death occurred. The dog's CV is impressive. Besides collaborating in hundreds of investigations, they passed the practical tests brilliantly at the FBI's Body Farm, the only place in the world where human cadavers are used to simulate homicide scenarios and concealment of bodies. Amongst the most media-covered cases which they contributed to resolving is that of the disappearance in Northern Ireland of a Trakta heron, who was last seen when she was returning home on foot after having been to church. All searches carried out by the police were unsuccessful. The main suspect's car, having been totally burnt out in a mysterious fire, couldn't be examined. They called in Eddie, who examined the charred remains of the vehicle and immediately picked out the characteristic odor. Human tissue was found amongst the debris, the DNA of which corresponded to the missing woman. Later, the dog indicated the place close to a river where the victim's body had been abandoned. At the home of the suspect, where the police were searching for incriminating evidence, Eddie identified cadaver odor in one of the bedrooms. The man confessed to having killed the woman, then moving her body to the banks of the river. The case of Amanda Edwards, reported missing, is also very impressive. The police who conducted the search of her ex-partner's home found small bloodstains there, but no trace of a body. The dog, who was brought in for the examination of the man's vehicle, alerted to cadaver odor on the tools stored in the boot: a shovel, a level, and a compactor. The police went to the building site where the suspect had worked a few days before and discovered the body buried in a garage. The murderer had made efficient use of his tools to carry out his task. It's also thanks to the help of the dogs that the case of Charlotte Pinkley, a missing British woman who had been imprisoned by her ex-partner, was resolved. The police requested the help of the specialist dog team to try to find the young woman's body. Eddie picked out a place where the abductor had provisionally left his victim. In the surrounding area, the investigators found a button from a dress that had belonged to Charlotte. That clue exposed the murderer, who ended up showing the police the place where he had hidden the body. More recently, it's Eddie who helps to find the body buried under a flagstone at the former orphanage Haut de la Garenne in Jersey, setting for a terrible case of pedophilia and child murder. The achievement of the dog detectives are the result of a very long apprenticeship. It all starts with the selection of the best puppies when they are only a few months old. The most talented breed for this unusual profession is the Springer Spaniel. The trainer, Martin Grime, and his pupils undergo aptitude tests every year in order to obtain certificates proving their capability. In Great Britain, the police have no hesitation in calling in the specialist dog teams to assist in certain criminal investigations. Their skills are nowadays recognized by journalists, police, and courts all over the world. Examination of the Ocean Club apartments by the specialist dogs. On August the 3rd, 2007, I am having dinner in Praia da Rocha near Portimao with my friend Gaivota. Unable to hide my anxiety, I keep looking at my watch and my telephone. Gaivota asks me if everything is okay. I respond with an absent-minded yes. A few kilometers away, one of the most important search operations ever carried out in Portugal has begun. Perhaps we will finally manage to clear up the mystery of Madeleine's disappearance. The investigation starts in apartment 5A. The grey jeep transporting the dogs pulls into the car park in front of the building. There is hope and anxiety on people's faces. Martin Graham gets out of the car, holding Eddie on a tight leash. He takes it off and orders Eddie to sit down. Instead of obeying, as would be expected of such a well-trained dog, Eddie immediately rushes into the building. He then goes to and from between the lounge and the bedroom in an agitated manner. Martin wonders what could be making his animal so nervous and calls him back to give precise orders. An investigator is filming the entire scene. A little later, Eddie is examining the floor in the parents' bedroom near the wardrobe when he lets out a strident howl, indicating that he has detected a cadaver odor. The investigators have hardly recovered from their amazement when another equally impressive howl startles them. This time, Eddie has picked out that same odor under the window just behind the sofa on one of the walls in the lounge. That evening in apartment 5A, the investigators begin to glimpse what might have happened. At around 10 p.m., police officers see Jerry McCann going past the apartment at the wheel of his hire car, a Renault Megane Scenic, an impenetrable look on his face. Then it's Kila's turn to intervene. She points her muzzle at the same place where Eddie gave the alert. Traces of blood are found on the tiling between the window and the sofa. Outside, Eddie barks twice, on the veranda, at the back of the building, and in the garden just below it. At this place, the dog's bark is weaker and might mean maybe, who knows. Thus, from the indications provided by Eddie, we can pinpoint the places where the body was moved around. Apartment 5B, 5D, and 5H, where the McCann's friends stayed, are examined the same night. The investigators are expecting new developments. However, nothing happens. Eddie does not show the slightest reaction. Therefore, Kila does not get involved. From then on, we are sure that at a given moment there was a body in apartment 5A. We now have to interview firemen, medical services personnel, previous tenants, and employees of the Ocean Club to make sure that no death has taken place in this accommodation, which they confirm. So we can conclude that the odor discovered is certainly that of Madeleine Beth McCann. Searches in the area around Villa da Luz. As planned, the searches with Eddie go ahead in and around the village. To leave nothing to chance, he is also put to inspecting the area outlined by Krugel. Mark Harrison organizes a big meeting to direct the work of the search teams. He has conceived the idea of iron bars, whose production he has consigned to a local company. They will be used to sink holes into the ground, which will facilitate the possible release of gas emanating from a decomposing body. Martin, Eddie, the PJ inspectors, and members of the GNR go over with a fine-tooth comb all the areas where the body of a child might be found. Eddie runs his nose over kilometers of waste ground, ruins, buildings abandoned or under construction, waterways, pipework along the beach, under every bush, not forgetting the famous Roca Negra. No evidence of the presence of a body, no cadaver odor anywhere. Yeah, I know where we are, but I thought we are catching up on the comments after the chapter.
But did you finish with the chapter?
No, but you are replying.
No, I'm just talking here.
Examination of the McCann's house. The moment of truth has arrived. That's what everybody is thinking when searching begins at the accommodation the family is occupying from now on. Either we find evidence of their responsibility in Madeleine's disappearance, or they will definitely be cleared of all suspicion. Being convinced of having made a mistake in not placing either the couple or their friends under surveillance, we decided to rectify it. We asked the public minister for authorization to search and at the same time authorization for phone taps. Our request is sent to the judge. He, being absent, his deputy is called upon. Finally, after 24 hours of anxious waiting, we learn that authorization is refused. The disappointment is enormous because we will never have access to conversations the McCanns have away from the microphones, and this not least because the McCanns are preparing to return to England. We cannot count on any more than the search of the house they have occupied since May the 3rd, 27 Rue das Flores, which they have been able to rent thanks to money collected by the Madeleine Fund. To avoid contamination of evidence that will be gathered at the McCanns, Mark Harrison has insisted on the availability of the contaminated premises exclusively set aside for this purpose. Julio Barroso, mayor of Lagos, agrees to lend us the garage of a new unoccupied building in the center of Lagos. The place is cleaned from top to bottom. On August the 2nd, at 6 p.m., the inspectors arrive at the McCann's residence and present the search warrant. The principle of the examination by the specialist dogs is explained. Kate and Jerry are in the swimming pool in the garden with the twins. Contrary to all expectations, they allow us access to their house in a very natural way. Eddie goes immediately to the lounge. He comes to a stop in front of a wicker armchair on which is lying Madeleine's small pink soft toy, which Kate was never without in the early days of the investigation. Nowadays, she wears a rosary and a green ribbon around her neck. Eddie barks to let us know that he has detected an odor. The soft toy has been in contact with the body. The soft toy and all the clothes from the house are placed into boxes specially made to preserve evidence. These objects are then conveyed to the decontaminated premises. They are to be placed on the ground a good distance apart for the dogs to examine. At 8 p.m., Tavares de Almeida calls me to let me know that Mark Harrison requires another place because this one is not sufficiently clean. How do I find a place at this kind of time? Sort it out. Sort it out. Julio Barroso offers us the new sports hall in Lagos, which, finally, meets the required standards. The objects are once again laid out on the ground and the dogs can start. Eddie alerts us to a strong cadaver odor on some of Kate's clothes, but the CSI dog doesn't detect the slightest trace of blood. Eddie and Kila at Robert Murat's house. Robert Murat's residence and the adjacent grounds are gone over with a fine-tooth comb in their return. Mark Harrison, rigorously professional, has planned to devote 3 days to this job. This seems long to us. We want to limit the duration of this operation to avoid having the media besiege the premises. Mark agrees not to prolong the search any longer than is necessary and manages to finish it in 2 days. PJ, GNR, Civil Defense, dozens of men are mobilized. They have to work their way through the jungle that invaded the land all around the house. Murat will not recognize his garden anymore once the investigators have been through. The ground is examined with radar, centimeter by centimeter, by a specialist from Aveiro University. In vain, the dogs detect nothing. No evidence is found anywhere within the area examined. All the same, the radar reveals that Murat's house is built over an ancient Roman villa. Examination of the vehicles. Not having been able to find an available garage in Lagos, we appeal to the mayor of Portimao, Manuel da Luz. In this case, as in others before, the police have been able to count on the practical support of the mayor's office. Finally, on August the 6th, in the unoccupied floors of an underground car park opposite the PJ's offices, the inspection of the vehicles takes place. To be examined are those of Robert Murat, Michaela, Sergei Malinka, Luis Antonio, the McCann couple, and one that Russell O'Brien may have used. Driven by the investigators, the cars are parked in the reserved areas, doors closed and windows raised, with a space of 10 meters from one to another to avoid contamination. According to planned procedure, Eddie goes if necessary. In the immense underground car park, Martin commands Eddie to begin the examination. The dog then intensively sniffs each of the first 3 cars at tire level, the side doors and the boot, then all around. When he gets close to the 4th, the McCann's Renault, he becomes agitated, raises his nose while running around as if he is trying to locate the source of the odor he has detected. Martin tells him to stop running around and concentrate on the search. Finally, he starts to growl, bark, and wanting to bite the bottom of the driver's door and the boot. The odor is coming from inside. The police have been searching the vehicle for hours with the help of Kila. At dawn, traces of human blood are found in places indicated by the female dog, the key and the boot. The harvested samples are packed, then sent to a forensic lab in Birmingham, Great Britain. Eddie did not hesitate for a moment. He was only interested in the McCann's automobile. No other attracted his attention or provoked any reaction whatsoever on his part. So why would certain people want to minimize the evidence produced by this method? Later, I am brought the witness statement of a neighbor, according to whom the McCanns left their car boot open all the time. For Jerry's brother-in-law, the bad smell was explained by the fact the McCanns transported their beans in it. As for the blood, it had been left by a piece of meat fallen out of a shopping bag. Kate's cousin explained that the unpleasant smells were due to the little one's dirty nappies. None of that stands up to scrutiny faced with the reactions of these dogs, who are thoroughly trained to detect only blood and cadaver odors. Harvesting of the samples derived from the specialist dog's inspections. So that the items of evidence might constitute admissible proof, the harvesting and packing must conform to the rules, avoiding all risk of deterioration and contamination. It is experts from our police forensic lab who carry out the harvesting. The minuscule traces cannot be gathered in situ, so the tiling is gently lifted out before being transferred to the Forensic Science Lab in Birmingham. Photos bear witness to every stage of the operation. For added security, it is the expert responsible for the collection who takes them to FSS on the morning of August the 7th. The choice of this lab is not insignificant. Apart from their use of cutting-edge technologies, LC and low copy number, a DNA identification test used particularly when only microscopic samples are available, the results, whatever they might be, will not be able to be contested by the British since it's one of their most reliable labs. All other items of evidence gathered, the keys to the McCann's car, hair and traces of blood found in the boot, are also sent to England. Initial conclusions. English and Portuguese police get together to analyze the results of Eddie and Kila's searches. What we can deduce at this stage is that only the McCanns are implicated. The dogs did not detect blood or cadaver odor other than with them. From now on, we have the certainty that there was a body behind the sofa before being taken into the parents' bedroom. If the blood found behind the sofa is that of the little girl, we can assume that she died there. That could explain why the sofa was pushed up against the curtains. In Madeleine's bedroom and on her bed, there was no cadaver odor. On the other hand, the odor on the soft toy indicates that she was holding it when she died. These conclusions do not, for the moment, constitute proof. If the lab results are positive, and only in that case, we will have our proof. And this is the end of chapter 16.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, where are we left with the...
Well, we are here, yeah. There you go.
Greetings, hello, hello. Hello, Barney.
Barney says here something.
Yeah, let's see that. Barney.
CB is about to be charged as a photo of CB taking down the camera beside the resort. Baby.
But see, CB Christian Bruckner has been in the news for more than a year now, and they never have enough evidence to prove that he had something to do with her disappearance. I honestly don't believe that he did. It's like every 2-3 days you read a different article which gets to the same conclusion that they don't have anything against him.
Sleepy down here says these dogs are truly amazing.
Yes,
They are.
They've done a brilliant job. Hi, Robert. Thank you for joining.
Sleepy here says these people must think we are all a bunch of complete tosspots.
Yes, they do.
Like children.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah.
Just feed them whatever and they will believe.
Yeah. True. Hi, Miss Jensky.
I don't think dogs have actually been discredited except in the opinion of the McCanns. It's just the police need to get other evidence.
Well, the McCanns did try to discredit the dogs, obviously, and they referred to a case from a previous time earlier before they went there to Portugal, and that's how they were trying to discredit the dogs. But they haven't. The dogs went on to be employed by the FBI after the Madeleine Mccann investigation. So they try to discredit everybody, really. Miss Jansky is saying, yes, Don, I'm very confident that they've covered their tracks. Question is, where's the body? That's a very good question. It seems like that body is impossible to be found. That's possible. That's possible why they're so confident, because they know that nobody will ever be able to find the body. Sleepy, it makes me so mad. They have literally got away with murder. Although we can't really accuse them directly with this, but it is possible.
Yeah, it's not really possible to accuse somebody without concrete proof, unfortunately.
Robert, if your child was abducted, would you put your 2 toddlers in the crochet again the next day? No one but the McCanns would. Obviously, no one but the McCanns. They are always, different than anybody else. How do you say? Oh my God, I can't even talk today. What? What did I say? I even forgot what I said.
They are better than anyone else.
Yes. They are better than everybody else. Oh my God.
Yeah, why would I put them in the crash after one is gone? I have to stay with my kids, right? So up to that point, I just went to the restaurant, had food and drinks and fun, and I left the kids in the house, well, in the apartment by themselves. One is gone. Why would I do the same mistake to kind of keep them away from me? No. They're pathetic liars. Yeah, look at that. Bags of rubbish and escaping me. What amazing coincidence.
But they must think that, we are so idiots that we believe everything. But if the dogs are trained, particularly in human blood and cadaver, they won't be sniffing out.
Sorry.
Is it?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Ouch.
Oh. So yeah, they won't be sniffing out any kind of meat, or I don't know, whatever story they came up with. There was an instance where someone even said that they had fish in that trunk. I don't know. I don't know what they think that we believe, but most of the times it feels like they are treating us like children, and we don't know anything better apart from whatever they are telling us. Sleepy Dawn is saying if they wanted them to be charged, they could have been, but they were protected. Yes, they could have been charged, I think, a long time ago. And although a lot of people are saying that Kila's and Eddie's findings, they won't hold up in court, I do believe that that added up with everything else, it would possibly convince a jury that they had something to do with Madeleine's disappearance. And there were so many cases with Eddie and Kila, and their results convicted someone, so it wouldn't be unheard of, really. Carl is saying, it makes me wonder what kind of father would do such a criminal act and get away with his act. He should have never disposed the body. He should have told Kate first, but hide his innocence. Yeah, I know. I don't. I completely agree with that. Even if he did this criminal act, at least he could have, not getting rid of the body. At least give her a proper burial, because in the end, it was their child, and it's at least that she deserved the proper burial. But to dispose of it as they did, if they did, I'm not accusing them. I'm just saying it's wrong. Robert, dirty nappies used to cover any DNA questions. The smell must be from the garbage, and the blood was from the poultry or meat. The McCann sure tried to cover their bases. Yeah, of course they did, yeah. Although I'm not quite sure that you can get any DNA from dirty nappies, I don't know. Hi Ria, thank you for joining. Bad mistake to send the samples to the UK with our corrupt government, yes. Gonzalo Amaral didn't want to send that initially, but because of them trying to make the PJ look unprofessional, then, you know, and incompetent, he thought that it would have been a great idea and much better to send them here. But that was the worst mistake that I think Amaral did in that entire investigation. If those samples wouldn't be sent here in the UK now, we would possibly be speaking about a different scenario here. Ms. Jansky, I believe those two dogs have helped solve approximately 200 cases. Yes, that's true, yes. And it seems that now they are working for the FBI, isn't it? Ria Stewart is saying UK government demanded the samples changed. Well, you know, honestly, in the preliminary report, there were findings of Madeleine's DNA in the results, and then in the final report, somehow, by some miracle, somehow, I don't know how it happened, that the samples got contaminated, and they found a lot of other people's DNAs in those results, including staff which worked at the lab. And to me, when you are a reputable lab, then there wouldn't be the case of this kind of mistakes, such as the DNA being contaminated with the staff DNA. Surely there has to be a procedure that they will need to follow. So to me, that doesn't really make sense, and that was just probably an excuse so they don't give the results. Miss Jansky said the McCanns would put all of us in the crochet if they could. Yeah, I agree, yes, they would. Wouldn't they love to be able to get everyone to shut up and stop talking against them? Ria is saying the McCanns were in the swimming pool. It was just an extended holiday to them, paid by donations. Yeah, it was so quickly that they decided to set up that Find Madeleine Fund and get all the legal team behind them from the very beginning. It seemed like a business more than anything else, really. Miss Jansky, disgraceful. Oh, dear Kate wouldn't want to be less than toned for those photo ops, interviews, book launches, etc. Exactly, yes. And all those photo shoots that you see, they've actually been pre-planned, and they were even talked about in terms of posing for photos, and how they should be dressed, and how they should pose, and how they should show people how they behave with the twins, how their family life is like, all sorts of things that you normally would do as a celebrity to show people that, you know, how you behave. Or like, let's say, for example, a reality show. Think about the Kardashians, for example. How are they behaving in front of the camera for everybody to see their life? Ria is saying the dogs were 100%, and so the ball is in the McCann's court. UK government are involved, and so what to do? Unfortunately, there is nothing we can do. There is nothing we can do. Because if it's something like this, and there's so much cover up going on from you know, higher up people than us, we won't be able to do anything. I don't think we would ever be able to do anything. Miss Jansky is saying, Cat, you can, anybody fluids, right? But then, for example, if that would be embedded in the nappy, in the fabric, would you still be able to do it? I really didn't know. Also, then that's probably why they said it, to have everything covered already. Sleepy saying, so she wouldn't answer questions, she wouldn't take a lie detector, the dogs found evidence. Wake up, you can smell the coffee. Oh, but you can't, can you? Because it would bring the lot down. Oh, and I think that it will bring much more than only the lot down, honestly. Yeah. It's so much more going on here than just this. It's unbelievable how many people would fall if everything becomes public or known or figured out, more likely. Hi, Debbie. Thank you for joining. Ria, I am thinking that Madeleine was cremated, probably the dog crematorium. Gonzalo Amaral and the PJ would have solved this within another few months had the UK not become involved. It's obvious. I do agree with you. I think that Gonzalo Amaral would solve this, and that's probably the reason why he was, put out of being the lead investigator on this case. About the dog crematorium, I'm not sure. As far as I'm aware, that was closed when they were there on holiday, unless someone had access to it or they broke in or I don't know, whatever they did. But the cremation of the body is a high possibility because that would be the only way that they would manage to get rid of the body and the potential evidence on the body without ever the body being found. Oh, no. Okay, I think that we can now move on to chapter 17. And I'll try to put it on your screen as well. Chapter 17, in the McCann's bedroom. The police who searched the house the McCanns were occupying, in particular their bedroom, the room where Gerald set up his office, report that the father and the mother are reacting very differently to the trouble that has befallen them. Kate seems to be in mourning. Numerous photos of Madeleine's are pinned to the wall or placed on her bedside table. Spaced between them, as though watching over the child's soul, a representation of a saint, a crucifix, or a rosary can be seen. A bookmark bearing the effigy of a saint is slipped into a copy of the Bible, opening on the second book of Samuel, chapter 11, where the following, chapter 12, where the following verses can be read. 13. I have sinned against the Lord, David said. Nathan replied, the Lord forgives you. You will not die. But because you have shown such contempt for the Lord in doing this, your child will die. 15. Then Nathan went home. The Lord caused the child that Uriah's wife had born to David to become very ill. 16. David prayed to God that the child would get well. He refused to eat anything, and every night he went into his room and spent the night lying on the floor. 17. His court officials went to him and tried to make him get up, but he refused and would not eat anything with them. 18. A week later, the child died, and David's officials were afraid to tell him the news. They said while the child was living, David wouldn't answer us when we spoke to him. How can we tell him that his child is dead? He might do himself more harm. Chapter 19. When David, not chapter 19. 19 only, for God's sake.
Why is it saying
I'm
that?
saying here 19, not chapter 19. When David noticed them whispering to each other, he realized that the child had died. So he asked them, "Is the child dead?" "Yes, he is," they answered. 20. David got up from the floor, had a bath, combed his hair, and changed his clothes. Then he went and worshipped in the house of the Lord. When he returned to the palace, he asked for food and ate it as soon as it was served. 21. "We don't understand this," his official said to him. "While the child was alive, you wept for him and would not eat. But as soon as he died, you got up and ate." 22. "Yes," David answered, "I did fast and weep while he was still alive. I thought that the Lord might be merciful to me and not let the child die. But now that he is dead, why should I fast? Could I bring the child back to life? I will someday go to where he is, but he can never come back to me." Then David comforted his wife Bathsheba. He had intercourse with her, and she bore a son, whom David named Solomon. The Lord loved the boy and commanded the prophet Nathan to name the boy Jedidah, because the Lord loved him. For David, life had to go on. In contrast, in the part of the room occupied by Gerald, the walls are bare, cold, no photos of his daughter. It's here that he administers the Madeleine Fund, organizes his very busy agenda, and writes his blog. His current reading material, The Interpretation of Murder, by Jed Rubenfeld, Spirit Messenger by Gordon Smith, is not about the bike. My Journey Back to Life by Lance Armstrong leaves nothing at all to the imagination about the drama the family is living through. With amazement, the police officers discover a series of books and manuals exclusively intended for police services and government agencies. Missing and abducted children.
Hold on, because
The chapter, do you want me to read again the verses from the Bible? Chapter 12. That is an embedded confession. It is, yes.
yeah.
Do you repeat the CHV? That's what I don't get. CHV.
No, just the chapter number, please. Chapter number 5. No. Chapter.
What?
Which one?
I'm losing my mind here today.
Well, you might. Which chapter?
Oh, chapter 17.
17, sorry.
For God's sake. Where is my head today? Oh, chapter and verse numbers. Okay. 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. So this is from.
Write them.
Yeah, you should write them. And
13.
15,
Yeah.
16,
Mm-hmm.
17, 18,
Mm-hmm.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. And this is from the Bible, the second book of Samuel.
The second
Book of Samuel, chapter 12. This is 12, isn't it?
Samuel. Wait.
Chapter 12. It's gonna come down in the comments right now for you. So you can maybe copy and paste somewhere to have a note there.
12.
Okay. Okay. So now let's see, I'm going to jump back onto, with amazement, the police officers discover a series of books and manuals exclusively intended for police services and government agencies. Missing and Abducted Children, a law enforcement guide to case investigation and program management, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Training course, COP, 9 Serious Organized Crime Agency, Child Exploitation and Online Protection Center, Making Every Child Matter Everywhere, COP, Serious Organized Crime Agency, Child Exploitation and Online Protection Center. Mark Harrison himself wonders how Gerald McCann could have obtained these books. Okay, this is the end of chapter 17. So yeah, those Bible verses, they are quite interesting and very telling. And I agree with Ms. Jansky when she's saying that they are like embedded confessions, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have already mentioned these verses in one of my previous videos. They are so very similar to the actions of Kate and Jerry McCann, really. Okay, we can catch up on the comments.
So where are you? Wait.
Scroll down.
Down or up?
Down. 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 From here, Ria, what Ria is saying.
Yeah.
Ria is saying the UK government would have access to anywhere if MI5 were involved, and why not? The whole thing stinks. Yes, you are right. Yes, and they can potentially set up a crime scene if you want. They can, or clean up a crime scene for that matter. Get rid of the body. They can do whatever they want, I think. Do they even have any legal? How do you say it? Anything that they cannot do?
Not
legally.
No.
That's great. That's great to know.
No.
Ms. Jansky is replying to Ria, you couldn't just turn up to the pet crematorium, you have to go through proper channels, and I'm sure staff would have come forward and said the McCanns had recently brought a pet for cremation. I'm not too sure about how the crematorium for pets would work, but as far as I'm aware, it was closed during the time the McCann stayed there. I might be wrong, I'm not sure. I read it somewhere.
Yeah.
It is very, very interesting. And this was open there. It was bookmarked there. So she was reading. So, you know, it's a funny thing because they say that they are not very religious people, yet they met with the Pope. And then she started reading a book, the Bible. You know, if you're not religious, you don't really start reading the Bible, unless, of course, you feel guilty and maybe you want to ask forgiveness from God. I see it in a way like this. Sometimes people who are not very religious, but they did a really, really sinful thing, they committed a sin, then
they go back to religion.
Because maybe they feel guilty and they just want to do something so they feel better. Robert is saying, wow, how blatant can they be? Kate knows her Bible, how awful she is, shoving her obvious guilt in everyone's face. And this is not the only time when they are embedded confessions. If you read Kate's book, I haven't read the book, but I've read some paragraphs.
Yeah.
There are some confessions in that book as well. And in some press interviews as well, you can sort of make out. Yeah, exactly like he said in the verses, yeah.
Yeah.
Kate is saying, Robert is saying, Kate and Jerry's life has to go on. Madeleine is of no consequence to them. Exactly how he said here, look in the verses. Where was it? For David, life had to go on.
Yes.
Can you put that comment? Yeah, from Ms. Jansky. Ms. Jansky is saying, guys, analyst Peter Hyatt said that their statements showed they were not concerned for Madeleine because they knew she was beyond concern. These verses fit perfectly. Yeah, they do. They really do fit perfectly. Yes, it's very true. Ria, I believe the whole deep religion was really an act. I doubt that they were so devout Catholics before they are believed to have sinned, and so doing penance in public was just another act. Yes, it was.
And going to the pub.
Yeah, yeah, it
But
was
there
just...
was a bit of another connection somehow, because that's what we thought, by the rules of Freemasonry. So, like cults and stuff.
And also, as far as I remember, I mean, I'm not sure, correct me guys if I'm wrong, I'm not Catholic, we are Greek Orthodox. But as far as I'm aware, Catholics, they don't really agree, as in the religion, doesn't really agree with IVF, especially if the IVF would come from a different person who is not the husband or the wife, because they say that means that a third person gets involved in the marriage.
Yeah, but they accept everything nowadays, the Catholic Church. I mean, at least the Pope, not the Catholics, as a religion, as a branch of religion.
Yeah, but we have to
The
think.
Pope.
Yeah, I know nowadays, but we have to think like how it was in 2007, for example.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. Hi, Slim Hoffa.
Hi, Slim Hofa. I've just seen one of your videos earlier today. It popped up on my homepage. Sleepy is saying, if it was your normal Joe Public, you would have been brought back to England, stuck in an interview room, and not let out until you cracked and spilled the beans. Yes, that's how it is. That's how it is.
That's why we are somehow uh, flabbergasted, somehow, like us, how to find the right word. We are worried, but in the same time, kind of lets you think, who are these people? Because they got so much support, coverage, and they are not put into through the system as a normal person would be put through the system, interviewed and taken part piece by piece, and at the end you will end up in jail somehow. I don't know, but they don't worry about it.
No,
they are not worried at all, and you can see on their faces how totally, they are ignorance. They are just, oh, I'm okay, don't worry, I'll just answer these questions, I go forward, you know.
Carl is saying, I think Kate knew Jerry was up to something, and where was he that night, trying to expose Madeleine as a predator?
Hmm. Well, that's
He was up to something. He was missing for a very long time from the table, according to the Tanan and things like that. And I think I still believe that he was the Smith sighting. But like I said in yesterday's live, I don't think I think that he did indeed carry a girl, but I don't think that the girl was dead. I think that he just wanted to make it look like she is, because if Jerry wouldn't be spotted by the Smith man, then the abduction theory wouldn't make sense, and the Jane Tanner sighting wouldn't make sense. Yeah, can you put this, Miss Jensky? Yeah, quite correct, Cat, on IVF. No, they still do not accept IVF, so it's a part of the religion that they think that is intrusive. It's like you would be cheating.
all right. Yeah.
Which to me, honestly, I don't judge any religion, but it doesn't really seem fair to me, honestly. Ria is saying it would win over those who are true believers and fit into several other foundations built on religious principles and there is money in those areas, along with support for the innocent couple. Of course, you know, nowadays you can always associate religion to money, honestly. Because I think that, yeah, well, I don't think I need to say any more than that.
I mean,
The Pope,
they have a lot of money, a lot of power. They control pretty much everything. So I came to a point where I really believed in you know, I, I really believe that all this religion sort of thing was part of controlling people somehow and controlling money, you know, and trying to control people through religion somehow. But there's too much to talk about that. It's something which we don't want to get into because it's a bit of a conspiracy there. But that's what makes you believe because the Pope has a lot of control all over since the beginning, since they started, and then King John, when he was forced to sign the Magna Carta by the Pope, obviously they had power, isn't it? And the Lords came forward asking for help from the French first, but they've seen they couldn't get any help from the French, and they went to the Pope in Vatican, and they got the help. And then King John, he signed Magna Carta, which even nowadays our you know British English unwritten constitution is based on Magna Carta still, like the law of the sea and the law of the land, free man, you know, and so forth. But
I actually think that the Pope meeting with the McCanns was orchestrated and organized by Clarence Mitchell. Because they need, you know, the McCanns at the time, they needed a lot of sympathy from the public because they had they wanted people to donate money to the fund, right?
Yeah.
So what would be the best way than to appear publicly with the Pope?
True.
Yeah, I think it was a move from Clarence Mitchell.
But after they've been made the Arguidos, then the Pope just disappeared from the context. And many others disappeared from the context when they were made Arguidos in Portugal.
The Pope at one point even had on his website find Madeleine posters and things like that. And as soon as they were made Arguido suspects by the Portuguese police, everything was taken down from that website.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They do have scent. Yeah, yeah, obviously, and that's what I was saying. Even yesterday, I was saying that the dogs were the best to trace. Yeah, but somehow they managed to take out of this investigation the dog what the dogs found. Um,
Because they did something with the samples. That's why, with the samples in the lab here.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what
Well, it was on purpose.
Yeah,
With the lab as well. Yeah.
I think I'm moving on to chapter 18. Carl is saying Catalina will be on tonight. While I am here now on live, I don't know when I will finish, but we are not going to do. I can't even talk anymore. We are not going to do another live apart from this one. So this will be the end of the lives about the book, really.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm moving on to chapter 18.
Oh.
Yeah. How is it?
Oh well.
Here. Look, it's here.
Sorry.
And then you have to go back there and move on to 18.
Uh-oh.
Go back. It does this, so you have to search for it manually. Don't press on that.
Why not?
Scroll up. And here. No. Up. Here, in search. And I'll...
18. So.
It doesn't find it if you click on the bottom for some reason. Okay. Preliminary results. Preparation for the interrogations. Analysis of the residues collected following the visit by the dogs is entrusted to the English Forensic Science Service lab. To avoid any leaks of information, Stuart Pryor, a senior officer with Leicestershire Police, is responsible for liaison between the lab and Jose Freitas of Scotland Yard. The latter, who is with us in Portimao, is passing on any relevant reports. We confidently wait for the evaluation reports from FSS. A few days after the samples are sent, we are informed that the DNA of the blood found in the boot of the McCann's car shows a significant match, 50% with Gerald's, which means that it is definitely the blood of one of his children. We telephone the public minister to pass on this initial result and wait for the follow-up to the analysis and definite conclusions, but the lab takes its time. At the beginning of September, shortly before the McCann couple are placed under investigation, Superintendent Stuart Pryor travels to Portimao to present the first of the two preliminary reports from the lab and to discuss the progress of the investigation. At a meeting in our office with the Portuguese and the English investigation team, Stuart expresses his disappointment over the test results. This is where the saga of the FSS reports begins. We read the part of the report dealing with the traces of blood lifted from the floor of apartment 5A, from behind the sofa and in the boot of the McCann's car, and we don't agree with Stuart's disappointment. We talk about blood traces because the CSI dog is trained to find only that bodily fluid. The reports that support that decision are clear. The CSI dog was used to detect human blood. Low copy number, the technique used to determine the DNA of the samples, does not identify the nature of the bodily fluid they are derived from, but we know it's definitely traces of blood and not other bodily fluids, since the CSI dog is trained to detect only human blood. In the first case, the lab considers that the result of the analysis is inconclusive because the samples gathered provide very little information when the DNA comes from more than one person, but all the confirmed DNA components match with the corresponding components in Madeleine's DNA profile. As for the second case, after an explanation about the DNA components in Madeleine's genetic profile, it concludes that 15 out of 19 markers in Madeleine's profile are present in the sample examined, only 4 short of 100% reliability. The FSS specialists qualify the results as complex and state that these 15 markers are not enough to conclude with certainty that is definitely Madeleine's DNA profile, especially as low copy number picked out a total of 37 in the sample. That means that at least 3 individuals contributed to this result. But there was more in this first preliminary report. In the same report, the scientists went further and explained that in the profiles of many of the lab experts, elements from the DNA profile of Madeleine are present. This means that a major part of the DNA profile of any given person can be built by 3 donors. That is understandable. 2 questions arose immediately. The first one, what good is a DNA profile in terms of criminal evidence if it can be the combination of 3 or more donors? Another question was simple. Why did the DNA profile from those 3 donors contribute to Madeleine's DNA profile and not to that of any other person, like the scientists who carry out the test? But the surprises from the preliminary reports were not to end there. On the very day that interrogation of the McCann couple starts, a second preliminary report reaches us. Very convenient, on the very same day of the interrogation. Contrary to the first report, it accords more importance to the DNA profile of the blood lifted from the floor of the apartment. In that sample, the DNA came from more than one donor, but the confirmed DNA components match the corresponding components of Madeleine's DNA profile. As for the samples lifted from the boot of the car, there is no further mention of the 15 markers, as if they had never existed. Suddenly, light was starting to be cast on the issue. Either this LCN technique is not reliable, or it's simply much easier to explain the presence of Madeleine's DNA in the apartment than in the boot of a car hired 24 days after her disappearance. At our insistence, Stewart contacts the FSS and asks them if they think the Portuguese are idiots. We hear him saying, with a lot less than that, we would have already arrested someone in England. I look at my colleagues and see that they are as stupefied as I am. In fact, in Portugal, it's not so easy to arrest someone. We explained to Stewart that the McCann's interrogations would not result in detention. According to Portuguese law, the crimes of concealment of a corpse and simulating an abduction are not liable to remanding in custody. What the lab reports bring to light. The preliminary results from the FSS were enlightening in a way and confirmed the information given by the EVRD Enhanced Victim Recovery Dog and the CSI dog. The CSI dog Kila signaled the presence of human blood, where Eddie, the EVRD dog, marked the presence of cadaver odor on the floor tiles behind the sofa in the lounge, on the key and in the boot of the Renault Scenic that was used by the McCanns from May 27th onwards. The bodily fluids, according to the FSS, contain markers from Madeleine's DNA profile. These elements do not constitute concrete proof, but simply clues to be added to those we already possess. In itself, the definition of a DNA profile from LCN is not considered as evidence in a criminal investigation. In his report, the English scientist says that he cannot give answers to the following questions. When was the DNA deposited? In what way? What bodily fluids does the DNA come from? Has a crime been committed? The scientific evidence is not enough and it has to be accompanied by other types of material, documented and testimonial evidence. It is only in this way that the entire puzzle can be reconstructed and certainties can be achieved, for the material truth to be established. The FSS has still not provided the result of the technical analysis of the hair found in the boot of the car. Once more, Stewart has to contact the lab. Nothing has been done. We want to know two things: if the hair is indeed Madeleine's, and if it comes from a living or a dead person. The FSS can only answer the first question. English colleagues present at the meeting raised the possibility of the hair being sent to other European labs which have the resources to clear up the second point for us. Hair from a living or a dead person. But the FSS then does not seem to want to part with the hair. They claim that using a color comparison test, they can establish if the hair belongs to Madeleine, and in a second stage, identify the DNA profile. None of that will happen. We never find out if the hair was Madeleine's or her parents, or her brothers, or her sisters, even though the lab has the DNA profiles of each member of the family. Let's remember, it is totally logical to find Madeleine's DNA in the home, but absolutely not in a car rented more than 25 days after her disappearance. Fingerprints on the window. One afternoon, we drive to apartment 5A, the Ocean Club. I am accompanied by Guillermino Encarnação. Okay. Can you please take over reading, because I can't read today. I don't know what's happening. I'm here. You read the word. I can't read it. Let's see.
One afternoon, we drive to apartment 5A at the Ocean Club. I'm accompanied by Guillermo Encarnação, the indefatigable Polícia Judiciária director from Faro, who is following every step of the investigation, with daily trips to Portimao. José Freitas of Scotland Yard is accompanied by Stuart Pryor, to whom we explain the theory of an accident. According to Encarnação, the child's death must have resulted from a fall behind the sofa, where the dogs marked the odors of cadaver and blood. The theory is simple and based on evidence in our possession. The parents will have pushed the sofa away from the window as a safety precaution because the window opened easily and it was situated, remember, 3 meters above the outside pavement. When Gerald went to the apartment at around 9 p.m. to check on his children, used the toilet, and then left, Madeleine might have woken up. Hearing her father's voice coming from the street outside, she might have tried to reach the window by climbing on the sofa and could have fallen behind it. Stewart indicates that he understands and agrees with the possibility. He takes this opportunity to ask if any fingerprints were found on that window or on any others, particularly on the one in Madeleine's bedroom. Initially, we don't understand why he is asking this question, since he has seen our report. He should know that fingerprints were discovered with the lophoskopy uh, analysis carried out on the night of May the 3rd and the following day. The results are in the report. Why is he asking about them now? We respond evasively, nothing conclusive. However, on the glass, on the handle, and on the right hand frame of the Madeleine's bedroom window, we had lifted 5 fingerprints, 3 from a middle finger and 2 from an index finger, all from a left hand, identified as belonging to Kate McCann. Can you change there? Can you
Oh,
see? Oh, it's fine.
is it?
The technicians who examined the apartment did not place any great importance on the identification of the fingerprints. In fact, in the absence of obvious signs of assault or of a crime, like signs of a struggle, traces of blood, or the presence of a corpse, the technicians proceed to the kind of examination that is carried out in a burglary case. They forget that fingerprints discovered in a particular place, even if they belong to an occupant of the premises, can be of fundamental importance for the progress of the investigation and constitute valuable evidence, even material proof. The window in question is the one that Kate Healy states she found open to the left, with the curtains fluttering, when she discovered that her daughter was missing. On the window, there were no signs of a break-in or of growth. It had been cleaned the day before, May the 2nd, by an Ocean Club employee, and the only fingerprints found were Kate's. The position of the fingerprints indicate that the window had been opened to the left, as Kate Healy stated. The window was fully open to the left. There is no doubt that somebody opened that window on the evening of May the 3rd, and the only fingerprints found on it were those of Kate Healy. The manager of the Ocean Club's crèche, who went to the apartment after the alarm was raised, remarked that the window was partially open to the left, confirming Kate's earlier statement. Enjoy your dinner, Miss Jensky. We prefer not to discuss this with Stewart prior. We have the impression that he is only here to accompany the McCann's interrogations and to prevent their detention. His concern on that subject is obvious.
Obvious.
Yeah. 2 pieces of information reach us, which we interpret as diversionary tactics with the obvious purpose of diverting suspicion from the McCanns. The first concerns the couple's active involvement in a campaign to set up an international alert system for missing children. The Policia Judiciaria is approached indirectly through the Department of Criminal Investigation in Portimao and the Directorate in Faro to participate and support the launch of the campaign. We tell the messenger that we are not the appropriate recipients of this inquiry, that the request should be sent to a higher authority, the national director of the PJ, or the Portuguese government. The second piece of information comes to us from further afield. Beirut, capital of the Lebanon. Imagine this: an Arab sheikh possessed a video of an orgy by other sheikhs on which Madeleine was allegedly recognizable. He would be prepared to hand over this recording to the British ambassador in exchange for a sum of money to be sent to his lawyer. Once again, we are stupefied. Can you believe it? A sheikh ready to denounce his mates for a few sauce. Arab royalty is so strapped for cash. I don't understand. Haven't all of our English colleagues who have been working with us already concluded that Madeleine may have died in the apartment? What more does Stewart need? I don't know what he needs. In any case, it was him who told us he had arrested people in England for a lot less. After the interrogations, I had the opportunity to ask an English colleague about the outcome of the story. Did that video exist? What was on it? He responded that it had come to him in February or March 2007, well before Madeleine's disappearance. It would be interesting to know who, deliberately and with the sole object of scooping the investigation, went and unearthed a video from before Madeleine's disappearance to make people believe she was still alive. The McCann's interrogations, the nervous English police. As the date for the interrogations approached, Stewart became more and more nervous and he was a constant presence. He wanted to be kept up to date on the smallest details. We explained to him what is going to happen, notably the sending of a rogatory letter to the English authorities to request specialist dog team examinations of the homes of the McCanns and their holiday friends in Great Britain to check if any object or piece of clothing retained any cadaver odor or blood. We asked Stewart to request that these examinations be carried out by the specialist dog team that we already know, with the same EVRD and CSI dogs, Eddie and Keela, and with Stewart's agreement, we sent him the letter. We don't know what clothes the McCann couple and their friends were wearing on the evening of May 3rd. At the start of the investigation, we had requested all photos and videos from that day and from the other days, but all we received were daytime photos. It was as if in the evenings and during the now famous tapas dinners, no photos had been taken despite the fact that some of the diners had cameras with them. The lack of nighttime photos was something we have never understood. Within the rogatory letter, we asked the English authorities to seize photos and videos taken throughout the holiday at the Ocean Club. In the McCann's home, we would like to check a medical monitoring chart recording Madeleine's problems with sleeping. This chart had been mentioned by Kate, and according to her mother, it was only used until April 2006, when Madeleine regained a regular sleep pattern and slept right through every night without interruption. We also wish to pick up the diary that Kate started to keep from May the 3rd. Finally, we would like to question the group of friends again, to confront them about their contradictions concerning their system for checking the children during the evening dinners at the Ocean Club. At the same time, we hope to obtain a response to our request to the British authorities, made throughout the liaison officer in Portugal on the first day of the investigation, for information on the McCann family and their friends. Given the fact that we have, so far, received no response to this inquiry, we will make the request for the desired information through the rogatory letter. We asked Stewart about this matter, and he says that they are in the process of gathering that information. However, a preliminary response comes to us about the McCann's financial situation. Astonishingly, there are no records of the McCanns holding any credit or debit card.
That's so convenient, right?
That's quite simply not possible. How were they paid?
I don't know. It's just some things they just don't make sense.
They don't have credit cards. However, we know that they hold at least two. One which they used to pay for the flights, and the second which was used for the hire of the Renault Scenic. The English need to sort themselves out. We need the McCann's financial statements from the start of their holiday in Portugal. It's obvious we're going to have a hard time getting the required details. With such information, it would not be difficult to follow the McCann's trails, to know about their expenses, their movements, and to draw conclusions from what came up. Meanwhile, Stewart makes another request. He says it would be a good idea to send two rogatory letters, one for the friends and another for the McCann couple. We don't understand this one. Fraud or abuse of trust. During a more relaxed moment at one of these meetings, I come out with an ill-judged comment. Inopportune or undiplomatic, but this is my reasoning. Thinking about the kinds of crime that might have been committed if the McCanns were involved in their daughter's disappearance, something occurs to me. If they were involved in one way or another, then a crime of fraud or abuse of trust is a possibility concerning the fund that was set up to finance the search for Madeleine. Donations have reached nearly 3 million euros. It, if such a crime exists, Portugal will not have jurisdiction to investigate and try it. The fund being legally registered in England, it will be our English colleagues who will deal with the case. Our English colleagues then realize a hard reality: the strong possibility that they would have a crime to investigate in their own country, with the McCann couple as the main suspects, a prospect that does not seem to appeal to them. I notice a sudden pallor in the faces of those British people present. We finish with chapter 18.
Yes.
So I'm going back, even though we went over the other chapter with the church and everything, but Ria here says something interesting, and it's true. The church was a form of social control for sure at the very beginning and until the 1950s when people moved away from religion. It is more like, oh, I need to run.
It is more like a business.
Sorry.
And the Pope did deny the McCanns.
Sorry, guys. Sorry again.
Yes, it is. I agree with you, Ria. It is a form of control. And Ria is also saying the Pope was set up by Clarence Mitchell and it was very underhand, yes. Thank you, Carl. Miss Jansky, enjoy your dinner. So you're having a veggie burger, garlic mushrooms, brioche buns, and salad. Yummy. Ruth is saying, thank you for doing this. Thank you so much, Ruth, for joining and watching us. Ria, why do you need to dispose of a child who died in an accident? They are going to be saying they neglected the children and have so to me the body held the truth of the lie. The McCanns and no. Yes, indeed, I agree with you. I agree with you. In most cases, when an accident happens, you know, accidents happen all the time. If you've got nothing to hide, you wouldn't just dispose of the body. You would just say an accident happened. You would at least call Sometimes people, well, I think that most of the times people, even if they would find their child, let's say deceased, they would still call an ambulance because they wouldn't want to believe that, okay, it happened, my child is dead, I'm just not going to call an ambulance. They will definitely call an ambulance, and they will call the police as well. It is, I think, how, you know, it works normally. But in the McCann's case, by them disposing of the body, they really show that something else was going on there, something which they don't want it out, really. Nick, hi, Nick Williams. Thank you for joining. So very shortly, we are on to chapter 19. Just going to find it quickly so I can put it on your screen. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. You know what is interesting on this chapter 18? The fact that apparently the McCanns didn't have any cards, any credit cards, any debit cards, nothing like that. How is that possible? How is that possible? How would you get paid? Your wages, they go into your bank account. How do you get paid? How do you pay your bills? How do you pay anything if you don't have a, you know, a bank account and a debit card? It would have been very interesting to see those statements, which would definitely show all those expenses. It would have been very, very interesting. And then also it's so ridiculous that video tape with the sheik. Ria is saying most parents would contact the ambulance, and there is little doubt that being a doctor would not stop that parental action. Of course, yes. And being, especially when you're a doctor, you give first aid. But I do honestly think that at the same time they would call the ambulance as well. And well, again, I'm asking what's up with the, hold on, Sleepy Day saying, how did they pay for the holiday? Exactly. How would you pay for the holiday if you don't have a bank account? They must have had a bank account. It's impossible. Then we also have the video of this sheik on which allegedly Madeleine was recognizable in an orgy with other sheiks. And they were prepared to hand over the tape for some money, and then at the end it turned out that an officer was quite familiar with the video, and he said that he received this video even before Madeleine was declared missing. So again, this was, I think, another diversion tactic, another thing to draw the attention away from the McCanns. They were really trying really very, very hard to give as many false info and false lead to the police, to the PJ. And I think that in this as well, Clarence Mitchell or his team had a hand in. It's like he probably knew that there was a video out there, and he just said, okay, come on, let's do this, and let's just put this video out there. It doesn't really matter, it's real, it's not real, it's true, it's not true. But as long as we take away from the PJ's time to investigate this, then we are okay. It's just, I'm getting so frustrated, really. Ria is saying, did Jerry not lose his wallet with his credit cards in and then got it back? Yes, that was when he came back from Portugal to London, where when allegedly he had to go and pick up Madeleine's DNA from the pillowcase in the UK. Yeah, he did. It seems that in the same day, apparently he lost the wallet twice. What are the odds that you would lose the wallet twice in the same day? I don't know. Okay, guys, I am going to move on to chapter 19. It will be up on your screen. towards placing the McCann couple under investigation. In Portugal, the criminal process is comprised of three phases: the investigation, the instruction, and the trial. Under the direction and control of the public minister, the investigation is led by the criminal police, who enjoy total practical and tactical independence. The police officers may make a declaration of arguido status as they think fit. This status confers on a suspect a set of rights and responsibilities. One of the fundamental principles of our Code of Criminal Procedure is that of non-self-incrimination. It is illegal for information given by a witness to later be used against him and to implicate him in a crime. The right of silence, therefore, allows him to avoid giving incriminating details. But the status heaps opprobrium on those who become arguido, in spite of the principle of presumption of innocence. With due regard to procedural regulations and faced with evidence of the concealment of a corpse and simulation of an abduction, partially confirmed by lab analysis, we decide to question the McCanns before their imminent return to England. This decision is taken with full knowledge of the facts by the investigators, the public minister, and the director of the judiciary police. On September the 3rd, the police officer, Ricardo Paiva, responsible for relations with the couple, goes to their residence to inform them of the date and time of the interview. Kate reacts quite badly. She is worried about what her parents are going to think and about the reaction of the press. She even states that the Portuguese police is submitting to pressure on the part of its government to resolve the case as soon as possible. English and Portuguese investigators actively prepare the interviews and draw up a list of questions focusing particularly on the course of events on the night of the disappearance. The suspects must clarify for us the various contradictions raised in the course of their previous statements. The interrogations. The decision to declare Kate and Gerald McCann arguidos was taken. Notification had already reached them. On September the 6th, a little before 3 p.m., Kate arrives at the DIC in Portimao accompanied by her press officer. Her lawyer has already arrived and the interview room is ready. The crowd has been building up outside for a while. Going through the door, Kate laughs as she says that this media scrum is good for tourism. Her lawyer requests that she be heard as a witness and not interrogated as an arguida. We don't agree with that. To us, constitutes a backward step. Some officers involved in the investigation seem to be hoping for the miracle of a confession. We remain skeptical. We finally decide to question her as a witness, but not to pose questions on the events after 5:30 p.m., the time at which she returned to the apartment with her 3 children. From that time on, everything she said could be held against her. According to the principle of non-incrimination, she would then have to be declared arguida since we have sufficient evidence to be able to do that. On the subject of the press officer who was accompanying her everywhere, including the police station, the opinion was unanimous. She had nothing to do with anything here. I have never heard of the role of the press officer in the penal code. Perhaps it's the subject of the next amendment, or else it's a new method. Drop it. She's only going to sit near the police officers on duty and wait. Her presence in the offices of the police during the interrogations seemed unacceptable to me, useless and prejudicial to the investigation. However, she was to stay there from start to finish. At 8 o'clock, we have a break to have something to eat. Then the interrogation continues until 11 p.m. We have learned nothing new with the exception of 2 details. Kate now remembers, 5 months after the event, that on the evening of May the 3rd, Gerald was wearing jeans and trainers. Another detail came back to her, the time that David Payne had spent at the apartment. Gerald had spoken of 30 minutes. Kate now insists that he was only there for 30 seconds. We have never understood why it was so important to minimize this period of time. When Kate leaves the premises, we make sure that all necessary precautions have been taken to ensure her safety. Arguidos. On September the 7th at 11 a.m., Kate Healy is declared an arguido on the basis of strong presumptions of the crime of concealing a body and simulating an abduction. She states her name and gives her address as her home in Great Britain. Taking advantage of the right accorded to her by her status, she remains silent and does not answer questions concerning the circumstances of her daughter's death on May the 3rd, 2007, in the Ocean Club apartment. At 4 p.m., it's Gerald's turn to be officially declared an arguido. For the same reasons, in contrast to his wife, he seems disposed to answer questions. He begins by vehemently denying any responsibility whatsoever in his daughter's disappearance. As far as the time that David Payne spent with Kate and her children is concerned, he now says that the 30 minutes represents the total time that it took David Payne, after having left Jerry on the court at 6:30 p.m., to drop in and see Kate go to his apartment to get changed and get back dressed to play tennis. But the court was reserved from 6 to 7 p.m. Why did David go back at 7 p.m. ready to play when he knew there wasn't time? Sean and Emily's heavy sleeping. Questioned about the twins, who on the night of the tragedy stayed deeply asleep in spite of the comings and goings, the shouts, and the arrival of the police, Gerald admits having been astonished himself that they did not wake up in the middle of such a racket. To begin with, he even thought that the children had been drugged. By the abductor, you understand, but he only spoke to the police about it later. From the start, the way the children slept had seemed suspicious to us, and we wanted to have screening tests carried out. Nevertheless, faced with the media coverage of the case, we had put this off, worried about exposing the parents to trial by the public. This was a mistake. It is only 3 months later that Kate speaks about this possibility, suggesting that the police proceed with these tests. The National Institute of Forensic Medicine let us know that before proceeding with this screening, they would need to know what type of sedative they were looking for. There are hundreds of them on the market. While the grandfather stated on television that Kate gave Calpol to the children to get them to sleep, several months have gone by since May the 3rd. Kate, who is a doctor, must be aware that the time for obtaining convincing results has largely passed. It is known that the sudden withdrawal of sedatives can cause sleep problems. If Kate's journal is to be believed, the twins suffered from problems of that nature during the days following their sister's disappearance. And this is the end of chapter 20. Hold on, chapter 19. So there's a misprint error here. It's telling me chapter 21 is the next one, but it's actually chapter 20. Chapter 20. Okay, I'm going to try and catch up on the comments. Ria is saying he does have credit cards then. Well, as it seems, yes, he does. It's impossible not to have any. Sleepy is saying they wouldn't answer questions in case they slipped up. If you have nothing to hide, you would have talked like a parent, like a parrot, to protest your innocence. Of course. But you see, Kate McCann, for example, she refused to answer those questions On the other hand, Jerry, he answered all those questions. So that shows that he was pretty confident that he will be able to be in control of whatever he's answering and his emotions without giving himself away. On the opposite hand, I think that Kate, if she would have answered questions, they would break her. I'm quite sure they would break her. Ria, you cannot lose something you did not have. So the UK sorted out the cover of finances, and that is a question. What was Jerry McCann being paid to do for the UK government? Payments into the account would show. Exactly. And I think that that's why they came up with this story that they don't have any credit cards, no bank accounts, no nothing, because there would be a lot of things on those bank statements. I think that there would be some payments which they wouldn't be able to justify. Ms. Jansky, Jerry floating the idea that an abductor drugged the children, covering themselves, and this abductor had time to do this and wait for the kids to fall asleep between regular checks by the parents. See, when you put it like that, the way that they are saying it, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It doesn't make sense. But I wish that they would take a step back and look at their own statements and realize how ridiculous those sound and how not credible, really. Ruth is saying, if you suspected your children had been sedated by a stranger, you get them to the hospital as an emergency. Not only didn't the McCanns do that, they didn't even try to wake them up. Exactly, which makes you think that they knew that the children will sleep as they are sleeping because they knew what they had given to those kids, so they would sleep as much as they did and so deeply. They haven't questioned that why are they sleeping so deeply, which means that they already, for them, it seemed normal. Ria, David Payne is a key figure in this case, and so minimizing his time at the apartment will simply add to taking the spotlight off him for his benefit. He is for sure a very suspicious character. He is, yes. Yes, and he's suspicious, and it's more suspicious that all of them seem to be affiliated with him, really. And over the years, they have been. Ms. Jansky is saying they think they are cleverer than law enforcement. They do think, but unfortunately, see, even the law enforcement here in the UK, it's on their side. So they will start behaving like that, like arrogant and like untouchable. Because so far, it worked for them. It did. And they probably think that they will never get caught with having done anything wrong. Although there are times when I do believe that they will never be caught. Okay, I think that we are ready to move on to chapter 20. Chapter 20. An Irish family in a state of shock. The McCann couple returned to Great Britain after more than 4 months spent in the Algarve. It's an almost triumphant return. The media coverage is such that you think you are witnessing the liberation of the hostages held for years in a far-off country. Gerald McCann is shown on television carrying his son as he descends from the plane. The child's head is against Gerald's left shoulder and his arms dangling by his sides. Gerald walks across the tarmac, still holding his son closely against himself. In Ireland, the Smiths are watching the BBC News, which is broadcasting the event. For them, it's a shock that the person, they recognize him. That way of carrying his child, that way of walking, is the man they saw at around 10 p.m. on May the 3rd, with a little girl who seemed to be deeply asleep in his arms. The image brings back with a jolt that of the man they encountered in the streets of Via da Luz on the evening of Madeleine's disappearance. It's as if the scene is repeating itself. Mr. Smith, thinking he's hallucinating, sees the same report on other channels, ITV and Sky News. From that moment, he is sure the man they came across that night was Gerald Mccann. Of that, there is very little doubt. Upset by the implications of this discovery, he alerts the police and waits to be called back by those in charge of the investigation. When we receive this information at the end of September, we think we finally have the piece that will allow us to complete the puzzle. Because of this, we may be able to reconstruct the course of events on that cold night of May the 3rd in Via da Luz. We have a better understanding of why Jane Tanner sent the alleged abductor in the opposite direction to that taken by the man seen by the Smith family. Suspicion had to be diverted from Gerald, who, if he was the guilty party, would have taken this route, leaving apartment 5A. The individual who was carrying the child did not go east towards Murat's house, but west in the direction of the beach. We decide to get the Smiths back to the Algarve for a formal identification of Jerry Mccann, by means of televised images certainly, direct confrontation being impossible, and possibly proceed to a reconstruction of the events of the night of May the 3rd. The National Director of the Judiciary Police agrees. The process is set in motion. All the details are sorted out. All that remains is to choose the hotel where they will be put up, but the Smiths were never to come back to Portugal. After my departure, the PJ were to change their minds. They asked the Irish police to proceed with interviewing the witness. That decision was to seriously delay the process, since the Smiths were not interviewed until several months later. Meanwhile, rumors were to circulate, and people not involved with the investigation would be made aware of the existence of this witness. Someone allegedly even sought out contact with the family without its being known to what end. And this is the end of chapter 20. Okay, Ria is saying they are covered, they do not care how ridiculous they sound. It is so hard to believe that this is happening, but it is. A little life is gone, and who cares? Not the parents. I think everybody else cares apart from the parents, honestly. And it's just... Sleepy, what can ever be done to bring these people to justice? What would it take? Or will it be the usual case of waiting until they are dead to spill the beans? I think that it would probably just be the case of waiting until they are dead to spill the beans. Possibly this will be turned into a cold case, or maybe if there are enough people rioting on the streets for them to find out the truth, maybe, although I don't know. But I'm not seeing this coming to light. Ria is saying they have more power than the law, it seems. Yes, I agree with you. Miss Jensky, some care, some don't. What's needed is enough people who care to put pressure on those who can actually do something. This house of cards has to come down at some point. I completely agree with you. I do. Okay, are you guys ready for chapter 21? I'll pop it on your screen. There you go. The dismissal of the head of an investigation, conspiracy or submission. From the Portuguese Marquis of Pombal to Lord Chatham of the British government, 1759, it is time to end it. If my predecessors were spineless enough to grant you everything you wanted, I will never court to you any more than I owe you. This is my final decision, and you will have to get used to it. Manuel Joao Paulo Rocha, official and author, born in Estombar on June 24, 1856, relates his work Monografía de Lagos as Forcas Militares de Lagos nas Guerras de Restauración Peninsular and as Pugnas pela Liberdade, which means military forces in the restoration and peninsular wars and in the struggle for freedom. How a minister of the realm valiantly defended the interests of his country against foreign powers. This involved naval battles between an English fleet and a few French naval ships in Portuguese territorial waters between Lagos and the Cape of St. Vincent, which in 1759 included the area of Villa de Luz. The Portuguese government, considering this affront an attack on its sovereignty, had immediately demanded explanations from the British government. The attitude of those in power at that time contrasts with our present leadership. Nowadays, relations between independent and sovereign states must respect standards of democracy, which weren't in force at that time. Besides, Portugal and Great Britain are now members of the European Union. Well, Great Britain is not anymore, and have participated in the development of a constitutional treaty. The firing of the head of a criminal investigation is just a minor event in relations between nations. The man is a simple official who has to submit to the decisions of his superiors. This is no reason for hiding the grounds for this dismissal and its damaging effects on the progress of the investigation. This untimely removal seems to have been decided not because of incompetence, but for one moment of carelessness. From collaboration to panic. From the beginning, the parents, perhaps because they doubted the competence of the Portuguese police, were set on having Leicestershire Police and not Scotland Yard involved in the investigation. It is important to stress that the professionalism of the English police is not in question, actually a bonus for the investigation. Their intervention on the ground did not conflict in any way with Portuguese national sovereignty. On the contrary, it lies within the framework of international cooperation between police forces. Faced with the globalization of crime, that cooperation becomes essential. Excuse me. Portugal already works actively with other countries, whether at the level of justice, of the public ministry, of the judiciary police, or the whole spectrum of police services. In the Algarve, for example, every year, dozens, even thousands of rogatory commissions, border controls, various transmissions of information are effective. Between May and September, the judiciary police, through the intermediary of the Portimao DIC, however tied up they were with the Madeleine case, actively collaborated with Spanish, English, and French police forces on various cases: international trafficking of narcotics and money laundering, fraud, seizure of hundreds of kilos of cocaine, and effected a good many arrests. We are well aware of what international cooperation between police forces is about. It is based on reciprocity, trust, and respect, especially when the investigation is led jointly by two countries with foreign investigators on the ground. During the couple's interrogation at the beginning of September, the two police forces defined a common strategy: to go forward with the search for evidence concerning the crimes of concealment of a corpse and simulation of abduction. Actively pursue investigations to find the body, get to the bottom of the causes of death. We realized very quickly that it was not going to be like that. After the interrogations and the McCanns returned to England, the British police lost interest in the case, giving the impression that their work was finished. We were left to pursue the investigation alone. It would seem that the reasons for their presence in our country were linked more to the McCann's couple than to Madeleine. The child disappeared in Portugal, not in Great Britain. For what reasons did they depart immediately after the McCanns? A very hard yet crucial question to answer. An astonishing shift. After the Moroccan lead fizzled out, new elements to the investigation, sometimes brought by the McCanns themselves, continued to feed the theory of abduction, while the British police knew perfectly well we needed to be looking for a body. On the last weekend in September, I decided to leave Portimao to go to my virtually abandoned house in the Algarvian East. Ines, my 4-year-old daughter, decided being in touch with nature. If she is asked which she prefers, living with her grandparents in Faro or with her mother in Portimao, the answer is immediate: with my daddy. Not so much because of her father as attachment to the house where she was born. Here we are then, on the way to her paradise. We stop on the way to eat and arrive at our destination late in the evening. After finding her toys, she falls asleep very quickly in her canopied bed. The sun is barely up when she is already about, ready to visit our neighbors, a retired couple who have found a peaceful refuge here. Throughout the day, she goes back knocking on their door, even when they are out. She spends Saturdays steeped in her own world and her games. For my part, I stay in touch with the DIC in Portimao and the investigators in charge of the case. I listen to the news when, once again, things being as they are, this is becoming the norm. I am speechless. A member of the McCann's staff states that they are in possession of a report that invalidates the work of the EVRD and the CSI dog. The absence of a body supposedly does not allow the results to be confirmed. Would that be the report from the experts at the FSS? How did the McCanns get access to that confidential information? This is highly reassuring and risks compromising the progress of the investigation. This statement makes us think of the challenges thrown at the Portuguese police: find the body and prove that Madeleine is dead. To which we could have replied with, show us Madeleine and prove that she is not dead. During the night of Saturday into Sunday, our dog does not stop barking. I go out, but I see nothing and nobody that could get him so worked up. He then howls by the door. I don't know what's going on, but being on my own with Ines, I decide to stay close to her indoors and not let my anxiety show. The next day, I still don't understand what could have upset the dog so much. Ines, anxious, wants at all costs to see the neighbors, but they haven't returned. On Monday, August the 1st, I go back to work at the IC in Portimao, where two pieces of news are waiting for me. Officials at Buckingham Palace have received an email informing them that a little girl, Madeleine, has disappeared from a hotel complex situated in Lisbon. The second was brought to us by an English tourist. Kate, on holiday in Praia da Luz, she allegedly saw a stranger hanging about near the Baptista supermarket in the vicinity of the Ocean Club. This is where we are at, reduced to receiving that type of tip-off and chasing a phantom, that of the imaginary abductor. This Monday gets off to a bad start, with its loads of irritation and preoccupations. Bad response to a journalist. In the evening, while driving, I receive an unidentified phone call. The last straw. A journalist asks me if I want to comment on the subject of the email, whether due to the difficult day, the raging storm, or the fact of driving through the rain. I lose my cool. I reply irritably without thinking that the message is of no interest and that it would be better for the English police to occupy themselves with the Portuguese investigation. Even as I am hanging up, I realize that I have not only made a blunder, but I have been unfair towards the majority of the British police who have helped us throughout these difficult months. I drive on certain that I have triggered a diplomatic incident with predictable consequences. As soon as these simple words are made public, I risk not being able to continue to direct the Portimao Department of Criminal Investigation. At last, I get home. It's when I visit my neighbors that I finally understand the reason for my dog's agitation the previous night. Their house has been burgled. The thieves left behind lots of valuable objects, but snatched a briefcase containing personal documents. Deep down, I can't help thinking that perhaps they mistook their target. The next morning, the storm and the rain have still not let up. A bad sign. Accompanied by Guillermino Engarcao, I have to go to Huelva in Spain to attend the commemorative ceremonies for National Police Day. Before meeting up with him, I see on the front page of the newspaper the phrase I came out with the night before, transformed into a long interview. When I met Guillermino, I let him know about my outburst. He immediately tries to contact the national director to explain to him what happened, but he cannot get hold of him. We arrive at Huelva Cathedral in time to hear the homily from the Bishop of Diocese, dedicated to, this is no coincidence, the role of the police and the protection of children. A choir starts singing Charles Gounod's Ave Maria, finally a moment of respite in the middle of the storm raging outside. We then go on to the Iberian-American Forum at La Rabida, close to the convent of the same name. It is in this monastery that Christopher Columbus stayed, waiting for financial backing from the Catholic Queen Isabel before undertaking his voyage of discovery to the New World. On the way, Guillermino receives a phone call from the public prosecutor, from then on responsible for the direction of the investigation. Having taken part the night before in a broadcast by a British television channel where he was questioned about the lack of professionalism by the Portuguese police, he is calling to assure us of his support. Knowing our work pretty well, he is outraged by the injustice of such words and hints that much to the contrary, we would deserve praise and thanks. The dismissal, end of a campaign of defamation and insults. At the forum, where we attend the ceremony presided over by the government representative for the province of Huelva, I meet some friends and acquaintances. It is shortly after 2 p.m. in the middle of lunch that I receive the news. The national director has sent a fax to the Portimao DIC. In it, he stipulates the end of my assignment and requests my return to Faro. Today, October the 2nd, is my 48th birthday. This is not the present I wanted, but one that I was expecting. Basically, this brings to an end a campaign of defamation and insults that I have been the target of since the start of the case. The whole thing orchestrated and amplified by the British media. The strategy is simple. Call into question the investigation and those who lead it, and at the same time, present Portugal as a third world country with a legal system and police force worthy of the Middle Ages. According to a British correspondent, the Prime Minister personally called Stuart Pryor to ask for confirmation of my dismissal. Why would the head of the British government be interested in a lowly Portuguese official? We refuse to believe the rumors going around, according to which the signing of the Treaty of Lisbon was dependent on my dismissal. Rumors, of course, nothing more. I cannot help but think that for the first time in its history, a simple official from his post because of external pressure. Those wise words addressed by the Marquis of Pombal to his English ally in the year of our Lord 1759 seem far removed. I will never accord to you any more than I owe you. End of chapter 21. So now in Gonzalo Amaral's words, you know exactly why he was dismissed, because of the way he spoke to that reporter. So what do you guys think? And in the meantime, I'll have a look at your comments. Robert is saying they won't confess because they wouldn't want their children to know they were living a lie. Yes, I agree. And yeah, I'm really wondering, do the twins check, everything that's happening with the investigation online? Are they seeing all of these things, all of the pages, the Facebook groups, everybody, who is talking against the parents, or are they only seeing what's in the media? Sleepy is saying they are living in a lavish lifestyle when they should be living with nothing but shame. Yes, I completely agree with that. It's like they have been awarded by the disappearance of their own child. Carl, no, I won't be on tonight. Right. We only have one chapter left. The last chapter, chapter 22. And then the book is finished. So I'm going to pop that chapter. Hold on. I'll actually wait a bit longer for the comments. Ria is saying, Gonzalo Amaral and his team will always have my thanks and praise. They are the only police force who are professional in working objectively to find the little British girl, and the UK stopped that. Yes, I agree, yes. And they work really hard. And on the opposite end, the McCanns and the whole team were working really hard to discredit him, even went on a personal level with him. And also, I do believe that the burglary from the neighbors, I think that was meant for him, but I think they got the wrong house. There was someone in that police station when all the British police officers and the Portuguese police officers were in the same building. There was someone in there who probably gave the team McCann tips and inside information. And I think that that 80 or 85% of the PJ files only are made public. There is still a percentage of those which are not public. And I do believe that Gonzalo had some sort of a briefcase or a folder where he kept some private information for himself, and probably someone in that police station, they saw that. And I believe that the burglary was meant for his own house. I think they were looking for whatever the information he had against the parents, which was not already known. And also, I also think that when they broke in the neighbor's house and not in his house, like I said, I think that they made a mistake with the house. But I think they chose that precise moment when he went on holiday with his daughter to do it, to scare him off probably into carrying on with the investigation that he did. They probably wanted to show him, you know what, we can get to you and we can hurt you and we can hurt your family, so you better stop that or else you don't know what's gonna happen. Right, let's pop the last chapter on your screen. This is the final chapter. Ria de Alvor, 1 year on. A glance at the past and casting an eye to the future. May the 8th, 2008, a Babuja restaurant. For several months now, I have not had the pleasure of spending any time in the company of my friend and colleague, Tavares de Almeida. We decide to grab a bite to eat at Ababuja, one of a number of restaurants on the banks of the Alvor, opposite the fish market. We used to go there from time to time, a year ago, for lunch or dinner with English colleagues who were involved in the investigation. The restaurant is full, the clientele mostly British. Amazingly, we pass unnoticed and manage to enjoy some privacy. At last, a long way from the investigation, we find ourselves alone and appreciating the sunshine on this fine afternoon. Its rays reflecting on the calm waters of the river that separates Lagos from Portimao, where the investigation was played out. Although Tavares is pleased to say that the whole affair is behind us, our conversation inevitably goes back to Madeleine's disappearance. We recall the extraordinary work that was accomplished, the research, searches of properties, interrogations, the expert opinions, analysis carried out with the sole aim of understanding what happened, and the bitterness of having failed to find the little girl. Do you remember the conclusions we reached after the McCann's interrogation? Oh, let it go, it's over. You believe it's possible to forget? We shouldn't disregard the past, but build on it to move forward. My friend, our Benefica has certainly got a past too, and look what it's become nowadays. In fact, experience has told them nothing. They moved quickly onto other things. Exactly. Let's not forget what has happened to that little girl. It's impossible. What I want to erase from my memory is the cruelty committed by certain people. To go back to our conclusions, I am convinced that those who would like to refute them would have a hard time doing so. That's certain, since they rest on the facts, the clues, and the concrete evidence. A disappearance, a window, and a body. It is now important to present a summary of this case, based on our deductions. Reject what is false, throw out what we can't show with sufficient certainty, and validate that which can be proven. The theory of abduction was defended from the start by Maddie's parents. In their group, only the McCanns state that they saw the bedroom window open. The others cannot confirm it, since they arrived at the apartment after the alert was raised. The only person to have seen that window open with the shutters raised is Amy, one of the play workers from the Children's Center of the Ocean Club. She made that observation at around 10:20, 10:30 p.m., which means well after the alert, which doesn't exclude that the window could have been closed at the time of the criminal act. The witness statements raise a great number of inaccuracies, inconsistencies, and contradictions. Jane Tanner's witness statement in favor of the theory of abduction is probably false. Little by little, it has lost all credibility because of successive modifications introduced by Jane, modifications that have ended up invalidating it. The body, the existence of which has been confirmed by the EVRD and CSI dogs, but also by the results of the preliminary laboratory analysis, cannot be found. The conclusions my team and I have arrived at are the following. The minor, Madeleine Mccann, died inside apartment 5A of the Ocean Club in Via Dallas on the night of May 3, 2007. There was simulation of abduction. Kate Healy and Daryl McCann were probably involved in the concealment of their daughter's body. The death may have occurred as a result of a tragic accident. The evidence proves the parents' negligence concerning the care and safety of the children. The sun is going down over this beautiful countryside. Children are playing under the watchful gaze of their parents. I think about the enthusiasm that was characteristic of him when I met Tavares in November 1981 at the Judiciary Police School, and which still fires him. The past seems distant, but is not forgotten. We gave the best of ourselves to resolve this case. Our conclusions rest on the proven facts and the evidence interpreted within the principles of the law. Our work was done in the cause of justice, based on the material truth, the only thing that must prevail in a universe where the lie is raised up as truth. Soon, very soon, the world will know the truth about the lie, and we will gain truth and justice for a little girl who has no voice, dead on the evening of May the 3rd. Gonzalo Amaral. And this is the end of the book. So we finished all the chapters of the book. Ria, the burglary was the wrong house, and there are far too many things that point to this being real bad stuff. Yeah, I agree, yes. Has Gonzalo ever done a TV interview? Yes, he's done. I think that he's done an interview, not in the UK, he hasn't in the UK, but over the years, yes, he has. Carly saying Gonzalo Amaral did a great job for the McCanns and was blowing out by such doctors. He knew his motive be a leg. Yes. The whole Portuguese police did a really great job. They did. But they were made to look like fools. It's so sad because a lot of people, even to this day, believe that the Portuguese police did nothing to help the investigation. And even to this day, they still believe that the Portuguese police was incompetent in Madeleine's investigation. So in a sense, Kate and Jerry McCann, they got what they wanted from people. Well, not everybody believes that, but there is a big majority of people who still believe that. So what do you guys think about what will happen in May once Madeleine reaches 18? Do you think that the PJ will end up carrying on with the investigation and charge the parents? Sleepy is saying if this was just a case of an accident, then they would have just got the police, ambulance, etc. No one else would have been involved. So it proves that there was something sinister going on here. Yes, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. Unless obviously they had something to hide and it wasn't in their best interest to call an ambulance and the police. Something definitely was going on there. Most of the times, you know, even if you have a car accident, for example, and you hit that person, you still call an ambulance, although you know it's your fault. But you would rather save that person's life, and most of the times they are strangers, but you still do it. Ria is saying, yes, Gonzalo Amaral and his team are to be thanked by all who they serve and serve. The McCanns are the ones who know, and they are the lie along with their friends. They have money now and remain free. So wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong on so many levels. It is. And the worst thing is that we don't have any power and we can't do anything about it. Miss Jansky, I read somewhere that Madeleine's bed covers were turned down neatly when the police entered the room. That was not done by someone snatching a child more like she hadn't slept in it. Yes, I agree. And then also, as far as I know, Madeleine had a pink blanket, which when the first police officers arrived on the scene, the blanket was there, and then it wasn't to be found anymore, as far as I understand. Sort of a similar story as with the blue tennis bag. And again, you see the thing with the blue tennis bag, a lot of people are saying that blue tennis bag didn't exist. My question is, if that blue tennis bag didn't exist, how come it was reported as missing to begin with? Because it was reported as missing. There were reports that the police are actually looking for a missing blue tennis bag. So how did the bag not exist if even the police at one point were looking for the blue tennis bag? Oh yeah, also about the cuddle cat, did you guys hear about the cuddle cat? Apparently there was there was a lady on Facebook. She lives in Rotley, and before Madeleine disappeared, she saw Kate and Madeleine going for walks quite a few times. And that lady was saying that as many times as she met Kate and Madeleine, she's never seen Madeleine with a cuddle cat. And if Kate said and Jerry said that cuddle cat was Madeleine's favorite toy, and she even made it, Kate made it a center focus of the campaign, then how come Madeleine didn't have the cuddle cat with her when she went outside for a walk? Which is another strange thing. I think that cuddle cat, I don't think that it was Madeleine's favorite toy. I think that they just made that as part of their campaign. It looked good for the campaign, really. Associated toddler with cuddle cat, with a toy, the favorite pink blanket. Look at the parents; they are so loving, and they care so much about their children. Especially Kate McCann. Look at her, how she's grieving for Madeleine. She's always walking around holding that cuddle cat. Sleepy, did you say the case could be open when Maddie is 18? No, I didn't say that. I said, what do you guys think what will happen when Maddie turns 18? And another question, do you guys think that the Portuguese police, will they carry on with their investigation? Will they charge the parents? Although I'm not quite sure that the PJ, after she turns 18, will be able to do anything really. I think that they only have the 15-year period where they can charge someone. We are saying lots of things are missing, and the most important is little Madeleine. It is so messed up, and I remain ashamed of our government. I agree, Ria. It is really messed up, and everything. And at the end of this, it's about a child. It's about Madeleine. But it seems that nobody is actually, thinking about her, as in the parents, the government, the police. Nobody is thinking about her. It seems that she's right at the bottom of the priority list. The most important thing is for them not to be exposed. That's it. The least important thing is to make it about Madeleine. We are here that the yacht in the marina nearby was one of the British royal yachts. Yes, it is. It is actually in the PJ files, because the Portuguese police investigated that, and they went to investigate every single boat or yacht seen there around in the area, and there is actually a log about this royal yacht being there. Yeah. Again, pressing the sympathy button and eliciting feelings of wanting to help, give and donate to the fund. Yes, yes, that's what they did. That was the whole purpose of the whole circus to the public eye. Everything, even the yellow and green ribbons, even the yellow and green ribbons which Kate was wearing in her hair. That was again another thing. It was all tactical. It was all part of a promotion. It looks more like a promotion for a business rather than a campaign for a missing child. Miss Jansky is saying, I have seen a photo of Madeleine with Cuddle Cat. Have you? No, what I meant to say is that that lady was saying she didn't think that Madeleine, that Cuddle Cat was Madeleine's favorite toy, because she's met with Madeleine and Kate on various occasions when they were walking. They live in the same place, and she said that as many times as she met with Madeleine and Kate, she's never seen Madeleine, with Cuddle Cat. Ria is saying it will depend on the statute of limitation if Portugal continues or not. I do not know their law. As far as I understand, it's only 15 years. Of course, of course. So do you guys think that Christian Bruckner would be eventually made the scapegoat? I honestly think that if he will be released, he will be set free. I really think that he should sue all the media that spoke ill of him in regards to Madeleine, and all the associations that he had with Madeleine. I mean, in the newspapers, in the press, really. His name was dragged everywhere, every single newspaper, not only in the UK, but over the world, really. And if he is not guilty of this, of Madeleine McCann's disappearance, I think that he should just sue everybody's asses, really. He is a nasty person, yes, I agree. He's guilty of his crimes, but I honestly don't think that he's got anything to do with Maddie's disappearance. And it would be a shame to see if this is pinned on him, but this can be a possibility. It will be pinned on him just so they can find the scapegoat. Sleepy K just wanted to walk around with Cattle Cat as part of the facade. Yes, I agree with that. I think the same thing. And I think that it looked really good as part of the campaign as well, get the sympathy from the public. The ribbon as well, the yellow and green ribbon, which she used to use in her hair, that thing as well was the same. All part of a marketing campaign. It's so sad when people see a missing child, and all they can see is money, to make money. Rhea Stewart is saying, I agree, he should sue everyone. He's a marked man now. Yeah, he is. He is. The amount of press he receives, even if he would go to trial, there wouldn't be any juror in this world who would, think fair about him. Everybody being influenced so much from the press, really, he wouldn't be tried fairly. And the same thing goes for the McCanns. If by any chance we are lucky and they are, accused of Madeleine's disappearance and they are brought to justice, they are brought to court, again, there won't be any juror who would be unbiased against, in making the right decision because of the amount of press that this case received. How can the McCann sleep at night knowing that someone is suffering for their part in Maddie's life ending? I think they just got used to it. They probably don't even care anymore. They just want to get on with their lives. Miss Jansky, I don't think Bruno will be charged. They'll talk about him until the next suspect of the year comes along. But this is just getting ridiculous. It really is like a circus already. I mean, this man was in the press since last year. Constantly, at least once a week, there's a new article about him, which is not even new anymore. It's always the same thing repeating over and over again. Yeah, he's bad and may continue to be, and if he wanted to change the cards against him now, all his charges known, yet much worse and evil offenders are free. Yes, again, I agree with that as well, yes. Okay, guys, I think I am ready to end the live. So if you have any questions before I go. Sleepy saying you would have to find a judge that wasn't involved first. Yes, that as well. I agree. Yeah, it would be very difficult to have a trial, and if they are guilty, to be actually found guilty in court. It would be very difficult. Robert is saying Bruckner should be castrated. However, he's not the cause of Madeleine's disappearance. I don't believe that either. I don't believe he's got anything to do with it. Pia is saying, I enjoyed the reading of Amaral's book, and thanks to you and Angelo. Thank you so much, guys, for being here and for joining us live 3 days in a row. 3 days, can you believe it? Wow, that was very long. But thank you for joining, and it's really nice to be live with you guys. We are actually enjoying ourselves, really. Me and my husband as well. We are both really enjoying these lives. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And that's it with Amaral's book. I'll let you get on with your evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and take care and stay safe. And I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye bye.